The internet has changed the world, and it happened without government regulation. Okay, Defense Department research helped create the first intranet, but what makes today's internet valuable are all the end users, all of you creating stuff without having to get permission from anybody. But now the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has declared we must have what they call net neutrality. And this is the boring but important part. Our expert on this, Peter Suderman of Reason Magazine, says this is important and not boring. So what's net neutrality?
So net neutrality is the basic idea, it's the principle that each bit and byte on the internet that passes over the web of wires and servers that makes up the core of the net should be treated equally. And in principle, this is a pretty good idea.
Sounds good.
It's a basically good idea. The problem is when the government decides that it wants to enforce this. And
But
make it a rule.
occasionally, the company will slow somebody's stuff down to keep things moving for somebody else. And they say that could mean they discriminate against Fox Business or ideas they don't like or companies they want to crush.
So there are times when you actually want internet service providers to be allowed to prioritize. Think of telemedicine. You've got a doctor, he's sitting in Atlanta, he's performing surgery on somebody who's in New York or LA. You absolutely want every bit and byte between you and that doctor to be prioritized, to have first priority over, say, cartoon bears. Whatever it is, you want those things to be more important, and you want ISPs to be allowed to offer that service. What you don't want is
They might have a
government
premium service. They might say you're going to operate on somebody, you want to make sure it's flowing, pay a few bucks more.
Right. In every other instance in which we have a communications network, whether we have UPS, whether it's the Postal Service, whatever it is, you can pay more for premium service. This is guaranteed to be delivered at a certain time. And so what ISPs ought to be allowed to offer is premium services like this. And what you don't want is
because your postal example is a good one. We used to just have the post office, and you had one service, same price, all of it slow and lousy. But only when FedEx came in and said, we'll charge more, we'll get it there overnight, that gave us more choices.
That's right. These are the virtues of competition. And so what you have here is on the one hand, you have competition between internet service providers. Companies like Comcast or AT&T or Verizon who deliver your information from your handheld device or your computer to some other website out there. And that competition is going to produce, I think, a lot better internet than an FCC, a federal government, deciding which innovations, which inventions are going to be okay and which ones aren't.
But they just say we're going to stop unreasonable discrimination.
Right. And every time they say they're going to stop something that's unreasonable, what they're really saying is we want control. Because what that does is it gives the FCC discretion. And now discretion sounds good because it allows them to be magnanimous and to allow some services that may not be perfectly net neutral to go through and maybe just stop the bad ones. But what you don't want is a federal agency getting to decide which business practices are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones, because that inevitably leads to favoritism.
And it creates a mother may I culture where if you're going to innovate, you have to get permission first.
Right. That's what this is really about. It's about, on the one hand, you've got the federal government and a federal bureaucracy that is asserting control over the internet, perhaps the most important technological invention of the last 3 or 4 decades. And on the other hand, you've got companies that want to be able to innovate without having to ask permission from the federal government first.
Because if they have to ask permission, it slows the innovation down.
That's right.
Well,
It's a chilling effect.
We don't want that. Thank you, Peter Suderman. Coming up.